Entire section of the bookshop called Self-Help, and there's no section of the bookshop called Help Others. And I believe what we need is the Help Others industry. I'll tell you something that happened to me. A friend of mine was going through a really rough patch in her life. Her marriage was struggling, her career was struggling, she was unhappy, like just none of the boxes were getting checked, you know? And she knows what I do. I mean, we've been friends for forever. And she asked a favor, can you help me? You know, of course, I said. And every week we had a standing 90-minute meeting where she'd come over and she would tell me what's going on. And I would give her some advice and I'd point out some patterns, and she'd feel fantastic. She would leave on a high and she'd feel amazing for like 2 days, and then it would go right back again. And she'd come back the following week. And this went on for months, 2 days, 3 days, and then back down again, right? And then it occurred to me, I remembered my own work. In Leaders Eat Last, I talk about Alcoholics Anonymous, where they have 12 steps to help an alcoholic beat this disease. And Alcoholics Anonymous knows that if you master 11 of the 12 steps, you're gonna probably slide back and succumb to the disease. But if you can master the 12th step as well, you will more likely beat the disease. The 12th step is to help another alcoholic. It's service. And so I remembered my own work, and I decided to change things up, right? And so I said to her, look, I love that you come and see me every week, and I love helping you every week. But you know, I struggle with things too, and I don't have anybody to talk to. Would you be willing to help me? Maybe we can split the time. And she said, of course, yes. And what started to happen is every week we got together, and it was genuine. I wasn't faking it. Like, I would unload and tell her what I was going through and what I was struggling with. And it ended up that we wouldn't split the time. It ended up that we spend 90 minutes talking about my stuff, right? And she was the advice giver, and she was the one looking for the patterns. And she would leave on a high, and that high would stay until the following week. It was only when we reversed the scenario where that I had the opportunity to take care of someone she loved, that she was able to find the solutions to her own challenges. And I'm a great believer that we have to remember we're social animals. We need each other. And this is the great paradox of being human. At every moment of every day, we are both individuals and members of groups. You know, and there's a debate. Do you take care of yourself first, or do you take care of others first? And there's a whole school of thought that says you have to take care of yourself first, because if you're not healthy, you can't take care of others. And there's a whole school of thought that says, no, you have to take care of others first, so that when you're in need, they'll be there for you. And the answer is you're both right and you're both wrong. It's a paradox. It's a struggle. And every day we're faced with sometimes big, but often small choices. Do I prioritize myself at the sacrifice of the group, or do I prioritize the group at the sacrifice of myself? I asked them about, happy experiences when they were kids. And this person said, I didn't have a very happy childhood. I had a really bad childhood. And I said, okay, so tell me a bad memory then, And she talked about a lot of abuse in the household, and a very abusive alcoholic father who would beat her mother and the kids. And she told a story of a repeated pattern of when the father would be drunk and come looking for the kids, that she'd be hiding in the cupboard, protecting her brother with her arms wrapped around him, so to shield her brother. And she goes through this whole story, and at the end, I pointed out to her that she's a protector, that in these traumatic experiences, it was her instinct to protect her baby brother, and she's lived her life. If you look at all of the times that she's really thrived and where she's her best self, she's usually in a position of protection of other people, and that's where she finds joy, in taking care of other people. And so the experiences mold us into who we are, and the effects, the impact will be positive regardless of where it comes from. So yeah, I mean, a horrible childhood that made her a wonderful human being. We're not teaching the skills of how to help others. And one of the biggest skills of learning to help others is learning how to listen. And most of us are really crap at listening, right? We confuse listening with hearing the words that were spoken. You're sitting watching TV, and somebody you love is trying to tell you something, and you're like, and you're still watching TV, and you're not even listening to me, and we turn around and repeat all the words back to them. That's not listening. That's hearing the words that were spoken to you. Listening is when the other person feels heard, right? And where you are in pursuit of meaning, not the words spoken. You're not so literal, right? And I think in the cases of like your friend, is to go from an advice giving mode, and men suffer from this more than women, which is our intention is to fix everything, right? All we want to do is fix. We see the problem, here's the solution, but sometimes that's not what people need. People need to feel seen and heard and understood. And maybe, just maybe, you're going too quickly to fix, and he doesn't feel seen or heard or understood yet. And in this particular situation, and again, I don't know the person, but I would go to an extreme listening. Give the kid the opportunity to empty his bucket. There's only 3 terms you're going to use in the conversation. Go on, tell me more, what else? Because it sounds like it's whatever you think the thing is you're fixing, it's probably something entirely different. And until you can get to that, you're going to give up on somebody who maybe, it's just that we had the wrong strategy. The single greatest lesson I ever learned in my career that profoundly changed the course of my life, and it comes right before the realization and the articulation of why. I learned how to ask for help, and I learned how to accept it when I was offered. Okay, and I think that it's not about giving up on someone. It's that helping someone is a team sport. Success is a team sport, and if you find that you're the only player in their life when they should be the primary player, you can only do the assists. You'll never be the one making the baskets. That's their job, right? But if they won't take the pass, then at some point you stop throwing the ball. And it's not about giving up on people. It's about accountability to take responsibility for oneself. And giving up on somebody is, don't ever call me again. You don't take my advice. This is over, right? That's giving up on someone. I think the other way to do it is listen, I cannot help you if you cannot be involved to help yourself. And I will want to sit down with them, and I won't criticize and be like, you're not doing this, you have to follow my advice, you have to do this, you got to go work at Subway for the week. That's not what, I want to sit down and understand what the blockage is. There's something else that's the blockage that I can get to, hopefully. But at the end of the day, I will say to them point blank, listen, if you're not going to be involved in this, then there's no point to me being involved. You have to, this is a team, and I'm the only player here. And so I will always be here. And when you are ready, maybe it's just bad timing. I don't know what else is going on in your life, and maybe this is not the right time, or maybe I'm a bad fit. But when you are ready, I will still be here no matter what. But you have to call me. There's no more me throwing you the ball. You're going to have to call me. There are many stories of people who, when the odds were against them, whether they came from extreme poverty or abuse, rose up to have successful and happy lives, right? And when we read about them or talk to them or meet them or hear interviews from them, they talk about mindset. They talk about, my mother taught, usually the mother, my mother taught me that to never be a victim. My mother taught me that I was capable of anything. And so they had a mindset, where some people have a victim mindset, and then that's the life they continue to live. Some people have a different mindset, and it can lift them out of what we would consider unprivileged circumstances, right? So, it makes me question then, is mindset a privilege? And we both know people that have every privilege afforded to them, every one of them. And yet, for whatever reason, their mindset is the wrong one, and they can squander all of that opportunity, all of those advantages that they've been afforded, and make a mess. So I question whether mindset is a privilege. There are a lot of privileges in life. Mindset, I think, is one of the ones that is there for the taking. Every single good thing that happens in our lives, everything, comes at a cost. There's nothing for free. Somebody with an incredible career has no relationship with their kids, right? Everything comes at a cost. But at the same time, everything we struggle with has opportunity and lesson that goes with it. It's always balanced, right? And so whenever anybody tells me this great thing, I'm always like, yeah, but at what cost? And was the cost worth it? Sometimes the answer is yes, and sometimes the answer is no. And when something horrible happens in someone's life or something goes sideways, I always ask, but what did you learn? My career, yours is the same. The golden circle and the concept of why came out of me losing my passion and hating work. I went through depression. I never want to go through that again, but I'm really glad it happened because look what it's given me an entirely new life view. And I think of strengths and weaknesses the same way. I think it's hilarious when people say, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? Well, it depends. Life is balanced and it's always contextual. And everything that we have that's a strength has liability attached, and every weakness we have has strength that's attached. I think to have someone believe in us, to have one person see a spark in us, helps us recognize that it helps us see the spark in ourselves. I think it takes only one person, whether it's a friend or a coach or a parent, a boss sometimes, who takes a liking to us. And almost all of us can remember one person in our lives where it's a coach or a teacher who took us under their wing and saw something that we didn't see. And every single successful person on the planet has that person. But I think most of us do. Most of us have somebody who saw something in us, and we are who we are in part because of that person.